Have you ever sat around and thought, what skills and abilities would be most in demand, would be most sought after, should society collapse? Hey, I'm Jack, and I'm a co-founder of SkilledSurvival.com and TheResilientLife.com, and I've been posting my information and posting my solutions to these preparedness problems since 2013, and millions of people have come to my website looking for help, and I've helped them figure out how to move forward and how to be more prepared in this crazy world we live in. So today I want to talk about preparedness skills. Now, last two videos I did, one was on prepper gear, one was on prepper supplies. And if those are interesting topics to you, click down below and click on those after you watch this video. But today we're going to talk about preparedness skills, those things, those abilities that you can establish over time so that no matter what, even if society collapses, people are going to seek after your help, your support, trade things with you in order to get what they need. And so that makes you a much more resilient person today, tomorrow, and in the unknown future. Okay, let's get started. The first prepper skill that you may consider is blacksmithing. Now, not many people are going to go after this one. This is a very niche, difficult, dirty, grimy, hands-on type of skill. But every society, every little village in ancient times had at least one blacksmith. Sometimes they had multiple. This was something that people absolutely needed. If you needed a shovel, if you needed a plow, if you needed a rake, it doesn't matter. You needed a blacksmith to either fix your tool or you needed a blacksmith to make your tool. And these hand tools, these are going to be in high demand. It's kind of like the idea of don't be the gold digger, be the guy that sells the gold digger's tools. Well, this is exactly what I'm talking about. And there's very few people in the world who now know how to blacksmith. So if you have the wherewithal, if you want to join a club or start a club and learn how to create a forge in your backyard and get some hammers and start pounding on some metal and making weapons or swords or tools or whatnot, hey, you could probably sell some of that stuff today if you're good enough. And you could teach others how to do this skill if you want. But the bottom line is this is a skill that will be in high demand should society collapse. Okay, the second skill that I think you should consider for a societal collapse is carpentry. And I'm not talking about going to the lumber store and getting some wood and then just hammering it together. I'm talking about chopping down a tree and then processing that tree into usable lumber and then taking that and letting it season and then creating weapons and tools. So on SkilledSurvival.com, we have a whole website on how to make a longbow, right? So you're taking a chunk of wood and you're cutting it down and you're sanding it out and you're using the right type of wood. But that's a skill. People are going to want that type of tool if society gets to the point where it's quote unquote collapsed. Okay, the next skill that a lot of people don't have today but should consider getting, and this one I think everybody could learn a little bit about, is growing food. Okay. And I'm talking like backyard gardens. I'm talking using seeds to start seedlings and then planting them in some kind of garden, knowing what kind of soil, knowing how much water they need, knowing the nutrients and the right sunlight, and then even taking that skill and then doing the art of seed saving. Okay. So in this example, you would plant heirloom seeds and then you'd turn around and you would save some of the seeds from the produce you make, dry them out, store them properly, and then plant them the next year, okay? That is not something everybody knows how to do, okay? So if you know how to do that, you can share that with others, and you're going to be considered an important part of any kind of survival coalition in the future, no matter what. Okay, the next skill that people are going to really need and want in a societal collapse is security. And what I mean by security is you understand some of the ideas of defending an area, having scouts, using firearms or other types of weapons to protect an area. Okay. We're talking positioning, scouting, lookouts, communication, sleep rotation scheduling, booby trapping, funneling, establishing quarantines. All those things are important if you have a small group of people, a society that's working together to try to defend itself from outside threats or the unknown, right? So if you have the abilities and the knack to understand that type of strategy, then in a societal collapse, people are going to need that. People are going to want that. The next skill that could be important is scavenging. And scavenging sounds easy, right? You just go out and you look for stuff and you bring it back. But, there might be more to it than that. You got to know what is critical, what type of items seem to be most important, how to get into an area and out of an area without being seen, how to know which places might have medical supplies that you need, which places might have some extra fuel that you need, and how to siphon gas. We have an article on how to siphon gas. We have lots of articles on medical supplies. Okay, those are all things and skills that you need to understand the broad range of things that are important if society were to collapse. But if you can understand those, if you can be a leader, then you can help lead a group of people to go scavenge supplies and bring them back to your survival coalition. Okay, the next skill that will be in extremely high demand is any kind of medical or first aid assistance. Now, anybody can kind of apply a Band-Aid, so that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking more like adding a splint to make sure that a bone sets properly. I'm talking about suturing up a nasty cut where you can do a suture and make sure that we're closing that cut and we're preventing any kind of long-term infection. We're talking illnesses and understanding maybe what kind of medical things you need as far as antibiotics and maybe some backup antibiotics. I mean, if you can't find regular antibiotics, maybe there's some other options that you could look towards in order to help somebody fight off an infection. That kind of knowledge, that kind of understanding is going to be in high demand if there's not very many professional doctors around, okay? And if you happen to be a professional doctor, well, then you're probably good. So congrats on you. If society collapses, people are going to come to you with lots of issues that they need help with, and you'll be doing okay. Okay, next up is hunting, trapping, and breeding. I put all three together. We're talking understanding animal patterns, understanding wildlife, knowing how to trap squirrels, trap rabbits, knowing how to shoot and kill deer and hunt deer and elk. I mean, these are going to feed a family. These are going to feed lots of people. If you can bring in fresh meat, you're going to be able to trade that meat out, or society's going to look at you as, we need this person. This person has knowledge on these areas. Also breeding. If you have chickens, creating more chickens, goats, creating more goats, farming, that type of thing, that's going to be in high demand if society were to collapse. Food, it's to get to a level of sustainability with food is going to be critical. And that's growing food, but that's also hunting and finding protein and growing food through farming. The next up is communication. Okay, being able to broadcast information, get information, share information. That's so critical, even if society collapses. Okay, there's a lot of people who have ham radios, amateur radios that can broadcast information out across the world. So these people are going to have the gear, and hopefully they have some backup generators and some solar generators so that they can always keep that gear up and running and they can broadcast signals. And if enough people have that, then they'll be able to communicate between societies and villages and whatnot. And even in just a regular small mini collapse, let's say like a Hurricane Katrina situation, well, they had people rushing them in who had amateur radio setups and had the licenses and the know-how to communicate, because the government regular radio communications were down. So they relied on amateurs to step in, guys, people like you and me, who know how to operate a ham radio in order to help out in that situation. So you can only imagine that in a societal collapse, that would also be in extremely high demand as well. Okay, the next prepper skill that you may consider wanting to master is becoming an electrician, especially when it comes to hooking up solar panels and batteries in order to distribute energy and store energy and distribute energy for the limited things you need. For example, perhaps you want to buy and install a solar water pump. The idea being, if your deep water well that you use to get water for your home and family, you want to be able to use a solar pump in order to have a backup, right? Or let's say that you have solar panels on your house and they're hooked up to the electrical grid. Well, in an emergency, if you happen to have a bunch of deep cell batteries and you can hook those up and say, hey, I want this solar power not to go to the grid because is no grid. I want it to go to a bank of batteries, which then we can hook up to some of our gear, like our ham radio communication gear or pumps or basic things like that. Then you're going to need to know how to hook that up electrically. And anybody who knows that skill, has that ability and talent, other people are going to look to them to lead them through that crisis, to help them figure out how to establish some kind of energy system with solar panels, batteries, and whatnot. All right, the next skill, I'm going to lump together a whole bunch of skills and just call it home economics, okay? But we're talking sewing, mending, cooking, soap making, candle making, shoe repair, all those things about clothes and making some in-home items that people need. Those are all going to be very important skills. People are going to want those kind of items and will trade you for those items. Or they want you to teach them how to do those skills, okay? So either way, having a broad knowledge base of home economics, you will be in high demand. You will be somebody that people want to keep around, want to have as a part of their society in order to make sure they have those goods and services available. Okay, next is gunsmithing, reloading, and making your own bullets. Okay, I lumped all those together because those skills tend to go with each other. But if you have firearms, you need to protect those firearms. You need to break them apart, clean all the parts, oil everything you need to, and put it back together to make sure that your firearms stay in excellent, perfect working condition. You also need to know how to sight them in to be able to hit things perfectly. You need to be able to work with scopes and make sure that, you know, your super long rifles can hit its mark from a really long distance. You also want to consider reloading. I mean, you don't want to waste anything in a collapsed society, period. If you are able to take spent shells and then reload those and then reuse them, that is an art. That is a skill that people are going to want and need in a collapsed society. And finally, how to make your own ammo, okay? Being able to take a lead or any kind of metal and melt it down, put that liquid metal into molds, and to create new ammunition. I mean, just think about it. Those skills are going to be critical if society were to fail because there's no longer any bullet manufacturers, right? Once the ammo starts getting used up and used up and used up, there's no more coming in unless you're the guy to create it, okay? So if you master that skill, you're going to be in very high demand should society collapse. Okay, so I've mentioned survival coalitions several times throughout this video because it's critical that you have one, okay? You want to reach out to friends and neighbors and people you, trust, people that have different skill sets and who will pull their own weight. That's what you need if you are worried about societal collapsing and you want to have a group of people that you can trust and who pull their own weight, then you're going to be okay. And we have a product called The Resilient Life where a group of like-minded people online help each other out and share their knowledge and information. If this sounds like something you're interested in, I highly, highly recommend you go below in the description, look at The Resilient Life and take a look and see if it's for you. It's a way to share information. It's a way to motivate you. It's a way to track how resilient you are. You start with a score of 0 or 10 or 15 or 20 and you work your way up to a score of possibly 200. And it's all these things you do along the way to improve your score. And we're talking about skills. We're talking about water storage and food storage and medical knowledge and all those things. So I want you right now to go down below, check out The Resilient Life. And if it looks like something you're interested in, come on in, join us. This is the kind of stuff we talk about all the time. This is the stuff that we're looking to improve upon. And so it's probably perfect for you. All right. Thanks. Stay safe and we'll see you next time.